Socrates, the man who kept asking until the world began to think. In the 5th century BCE, the streets of ancient Athens echoed with the sounds of markets, the discussions of merchants, and the footsteps of citizens proudly carrying their freedom. Athens at that time was one of the most influential cities in the Greek world. It was a symbol of democracy, philosophy, art, and power. It was amidst this bustling civilization that a man lived who would become one of history's most fundamental thinkers. His name was Socrates, and although he never wrote a single text, his ideas have survived for thousands of years. Socrates was born around 470 BCE. His father was a stonemason, and his mother a midwife. This pair of professions later became a beautiful symbol of what Socrates did. He helped people give birth to truth and sculpted new ways of thinking into their minds. He was neither noble nor wealthy. He spent his childhood in ordinary Athenian circumstances, but from a young age he was interested in what others took for granted. Instead of accepting things, he asked questions, and he later became famous for his questions. Tradition says that Socrates was not physically handsome. He had a broad head, protruding eyes, and a stocky figure. But this unusual figure became one of the most recognizable symbols of philosophy. His eyes were said to be able to penetrate a person's soul, and the questions he asked forced people to think differently than they were used to. In his younger years, he participated in 3 wars as a hoplite, a heavily armed soldier in the Athenian army. He fought bravely, and his courage was valued, but the life of a warrior did not fulfill him. Upon his return, he began to fully dedicate himself to what attracted him most: conversations. He walked the streets, marketplaces, and gymnasia, talking to people from all walks of life. He did not teach in a building. He did not charge a fee for his lessons. He had no official school. His classroom was the streets of Athens, and his tool was the question. His method, which is now called Socratic, was simple but powerful. He did not lecture on ready-made truths. Instead, he asked questions that forced the person to reach the roots of their own thinking. What is courage? What is justice? What is good? Simple questions that no politician, general, or poet could answer well enough when led by Socrates step by step. And the more the respondent tried to explain their view, the clearer it became that their ideas were not solid. People loved it or hated it. Young Athenians flocked to Socrates because he was fascinating. But politicians and sophists hated him because he questioned their wisdom, their authority, and their certainty. Socrates often used to say, "I know that I know nothing." This sentence was not an expression of false humility, but a demonstration of deep understanding. For a person to know the world, they must first understand their own ignorance. However, Athens was not always stable. The glorious age of Pericles was followed by a crisis. The Peloponnesian War with Sparta shook the city. Democracy fell, then was restored, overthrown again, and rebuilt. People sought scapegoats for their failures, and society was fracturing. In such an environment, Socrates' provocative questions were even more dangerous. Some of his students, like Alcibiades or Critias, became involved in political upheavals, which worsened his reputation. When Socrates was over 70, he became the target of an accusation. The indictment claimed that he was corrupting the youth and not recognizing the gods of the city. Socrates defended himself resolutely in court. Instead of begging for mercy, he explained that he served the city by examining the souls of its citizens. Condemning such a man, he argued, would be a mistake made by Athens, not his own fault. Nevertheless, the jury found him guilty, and because Athens had a democratic system, the punishment was voted on by the same people. Socrates proposed a symbolic penalty, such as a small fine, because he believed he had done no wrong. The jury, however, perceived this as arrogance, and so they sentenced Socrates to death. The punishment was to drink poison, hemlock. It was not an execution by sword or fire. The Athenians gave the condemned the option to leave the world with dignity and without weapons. His friends and students desperately sought a way to free him or smuggle him out of the city, but Socrates refused. He believed that escaping would mean betraying the laws of the state that had raised him. And how could he live in contradiction with his own teaching? The last days of his life were described by his student Plato. Socrates calmly discussed the soul, immortality, and how a person should live correctly. He was not broken. He was not afraid, nor was he embittered. He believed that a true philosopher does not fear death because death is just another path of knowledge. When the moment came, they brought him the cup with the poisonous drink. Socrates took it, spoke a few final thoughts, and then slowly drank it. The poison paralyzed his body from the feet upwards. His students wept, but Socrates remained calm until the very end. He died in 399 BCE. His death was not an end, but the beginning of a new era in philosophy. Plato, Xenophon, and other students preserved and spread his teachings. Thanks to them, we now know the Socratic method, the concept of ethics, the emphasis on self-reflection, and the continuous examination of truth. Socrates not only laid the foundations of Western philosophy, but became one of its greatest symbols. the symbol of a man who seeks truth, even at the cost of his own life. His legacy has survived wars, the fall of empires, centuries and millennia, and his questions are still relevant. What is good? What is justice? What does it mean to live correctly? Socrates left us with a tool for asking, for thinking, and for seeking the truth within ourselves. Although he left no written work, he left something much more powerful, a way of thinking that changed the world,